3, 2. Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, everybody said he was crazy when he tossed his hat into the ring, but now everyone is listening to him with just days till the election day. That's coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I love people who don't listen to conventional wisdom, and Dr. Tre Pennie is one of those guys, because when he announced that he was going to run against a long-term incumbent for Congress, everybody said he was crazy. Dr. Tre Pennie, thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
All right. So kind of let's set the stage. You are running against Eddie Bernice Johnson, who's been in office for how long?
28 years.
28 years.
28 years, absolutely.
And you're a sergeant with the Dallas Police Department.
I am.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, 21 years, Dallas Police Sergeant.
All right, so take us back to the beginning. What caused you to run?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I'd have to really take you all the way back to the beginning. You know, I grew up in a urban community in Houston, Texas. I mean, just one of the districts that essentially has some of the same issues that we have here in District 30. You know, like failing socioeconomic situation, crime problem. Failing schools, right? And, you know, in growing up in my teenage years, I just saw how there was this lack of support from, you know, people in the community, from, you know, the leadership. And essentially those patterns were just something that I started to see over and over again. And when I decided to put my name in the hat for this seat, you know, it just was by happenstance. You know, it was something that I think I needed to do for the interest of the community. I've seen all those same trends occur all over again, and I'm there.
Okay, conventional wisdom is there's no way you can win. She has all the name recognition, and you just ignored all that advice. I did. I ignored the advice because I believe that I knew what the people needed. I believe that I've just seen so many tragedies happening in this community. I've established a lot of different relationships over the years, and I think that I can bring in resources that can better benefit the interests of the people. Well, I know one of the things that you're very strong on is crime and protecting our citizens. Talk a little bit about that. Yeah, so like I said, I've been a Dallas police officer for 21 years. And like I said, this community has been one that I've grown to love. The better way that I can explain this to you, you know, I started back in 1999, and there were a lot of parts of Oak Cliff that were really bad at the time. And as a young officer, I remember driving through this apartment complex. As police officers, we like to be active and on top of calls whenever they happen. And in this particular situation, there was an apartment complex that had a lot of shootings coming out. And I remember driving through this apartment complex, and there was a little kid sitting on the curb, and he had his head down between his legs. I drive up on side of him, I look out my window, and I say, "Hey, little man, everything all right?" And he raised his head up out of his legs and look up at me and say, "I'm just tired." So I get out the car and I walk over to him. I say, "Well, what you tired of, little man? What's wrong?" And he said, "I'm tired of running. I'm tired of running behind my friends." So I look up and I see his friends riding off on their bikes, and he's sitting down. He put his head back down. And I said, "All right, little man, just hold on a second." So I jump in my squad car, and at the time we had a Toys R Us over off of Redbird. And I jumped in my squad car and I drove. Don't tell anybody. I drove code 3 to get over there to this Toys R Us. And I run in. I grab the best bike I could find for this kid, right? And I throw it in the back of the squad car, and I drive back. And the whole time I'm praying that this kid is still sitting there. And when I get there, sure enough, that he's still sitting there, had his head down, still in the same position that I left him. And I jumped out the car and I gave him the bike,
And the kid looked up at me, and I told him, and he asked me, was this his bike? I said, yeah, it's yours. And he jumped on the bike, he took off and caught up with his friends. And when I think about that story, I think about District 30, because District 30 is essentially that kid sitting on the curb. We're sitting there while everyone else is running off, and there's no options for us, right? There's no options for the people. And I just chose, looking at those experiences or what connected me to the community. That's kind of like, this is reality. And a lot of people don't see the reality because they're not there.
Mm. Such a powerful story, and I urge the audience to follow him on social media. You put up some amazing videos. Here's one that you shot just a couple weeks ago.
Hey guys, Dr. Tre Pennie, currently running for U.S. Congress in Texas, Congressional District 30. Look, I just want to remind everyone that we have to continue to support our small and minority-owned businesses. We've seen that in the wake of the COVID-19 crisis that a lot of our businesses were forced to shut down. They had a tremendous impact, especially on our barber and our beauty salons. So what I've done today is I've partnered with the Clip Club Barbershop to basically host and pay for free haircuts for all the kids in the community. We've had a great turnout today. And look, I just want to encourage everyone to continue to stay involved, continue to support our small and minority-owned business, because they need you in order to survive. Get behind me, Pennie for Congress. I love you guys. Take care.
Hey, I'm Ski Ball Wall. We at the Clip Club Barbershop. We're doing free haircuts and back to school for the kids. I appreciate Tre Pennie looking out for the community.
Very cool. Oh, I love it that, if this is a David versus Goliath fight, you got your slingshot and you're...
So my rock, I'm ready.
What are you hearing on the front line? What are voters telling you when you're talking to them face to face?
Yeah, they're all, a lot of people just ready for change. It's not the narrative that you hear, and it's unfortunate that, that the interests of the people have not been taken care of after all these years. But a lot of people are just ready for change. They're tired. And, me being a community advocate, as I've been for several years, it was just easy for me to jump into this role. A lot of people know what I stand for. They know that they know where I come from. And my stories, and I tell stories a lot, right? Because the reality is I know that that's how people understand. I can relate to their situation if they can relate to mine.
Yes.
And I'm looking at a lot of these issues that are happening in this community, and that a lot of people outside just simply don't understand. So they're not going to be able to provide the resources if they don't know what's going on. And I grew up in a similar community to this that were, at the age of 16, I witnessed my own cousin get killed in front of me the day before her wedding day.
Wow.
And that situation changed my life. I didn't have any options on how to get out the inner city. Nobody talked to me about going to college or having any real resources, real opportunities for change. And at the time, I just did the most controversial thing anybody could have done at the time, which was join the United States Army. Wow. And I thank God every day for the United States Army because it gave me that opportunity.
And the discipline that you learned
Absolutely.
serving the country.
Absolutely. Oh, but it wasn't easy now. Let me tell you something. There's a traditional gap you gotta cross over.
Well,
but
I want to show people your district, and maybe you can point out the boundary lines. There's the district. It's a big district, isn't it?
Absolutely. And in fact, if you really think about everything above the Trinity is you're gonna see a lot more economic development on the northern half of the district than you are on the southern sector. It's all the southern sector, and if you got to compare District 30 to 32, like the North Dallas,
yep.
You're gonna see that economic development more than 85% has always been push north, and the southern sector has always settled for less. So
tell us about the small business owner. What does the small business owner need now, especially coming out of COVID-19?
Oh yeah, look, first of all, they need stability. COVID-19 has really decimated a lot of the small and minority-owned businesses. We've seen 46% across the country have essentially they're not coming back. And so if you really think about it, the small minority-owned businesses, they are going to need that extra push. They're going to need government. And unfortunately, look, government has these stimulus programs that have been put out there. Unfortunately, they have the money hasn't quite trickled down to those small minority-owned businesses. So what we want to do is create opportunities for people, right? And which is For me, I put forth an Earn It plan. It's an economic recovery plan called Earn It. It's an economic academic reward network and training. Because basically what I'm doing is combining all these different issues to give people opportunities, right? This is basically an idea of what government, you do what you normally do, right? But under Earn It, what we're going to do is we're going to partner with the businesses and give people an opportunity to work with the businesses to develop their own rewards. Whatever those rewards were, whether they're economic or academic, that's up for the individual to decide. But we want to make sure that these partnerships are working.
I know sometimes when people go off to Washington, they kind of lose sight of what's really important. Do you think you have an advantage because you don't come from the world of politics?
Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, well, put it like this, my advantage is that I know how Washington works because, like I said, I've been an advocate for a long time. I've been in D.C., doing different things, and this is, you hear the term "it's a swamp." It really is, because the reality is they're not there doing the people's work, and that's unfortunate, because we've given these politicians this much leverage and this much control. For us to be a representative republic, we got to have representatives that are actually representing us and represent our interests in Congress. But the reality is, those representatives get there, they don't come back and ask you, what to vote on or how you feel about a certain issue. And I think we have to change that. We have to give the people a voice, and I'm going to be the voice for the people.
Wow. So inspirational. We're going to go ahead and put your website up so everybody can get in touch. It's pennyforcongress.com. Thank you so much, Dr. Tre. I appreciate your wisdom and sharing it with my audience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
You bet. And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.